Sure, and check out.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Terry LeBlanc, a co-owner of Swamp Fox Bookstore today, and we're so excited about this virtual event that we're hosting today with Sheila Modir and Jeffrey Kashou. They are the authors of The Proudest Color, and they're going to read the story for us, so we'll have a Q&A session. So as you're listening to the story and hearing us talk a little bit about the books and their work as authors, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section or the chat area, and we'll keep an eye there. If you're watching us on Facebook, we'll try to keep an eye on Facebook as well if you happen to have any questions that come up there. So welcome, everyone. So just to give a quick little introduction, Sheila Modir is a pediatric psychologist, and Jeffrey Kashou is a marriage and family therapist. As Middle Eastern Americans, Iranian, and Palestinian, and as clinicians, they advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and work towards promoting resilience in children. The Proudest Color is their first book, and it is about Zara. That's the correct pronunciation of her name, correct? Sees the world in vivid color. When she's happy, she feels a razzle-dazzle in pink in her hands, and when she's sad, she feels a deep blue behind her eyes. But she isn't quite sure how to feel about the color of her skin. Kids at school tell her she's different, but her mother tells her to be proud. For my diverse team and based on extensive research, which we were talking about before we started, The Proudest Color is a timely and sensitive introduction to race, racism, and racial pride. So welcome, Sheila and Jeffrey.
Yay, hi.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah. So, should we go ahead and should we start the story? Have story time first?
Yeah,
happy to.
Story time.
And thank you so much for hosting us and for that great introduction. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're going to see if technology works. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Give me just a second. Are you seeing the book?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So here is The Proudest Color, and you're just getting a glimpse of the inside of the cover with Zahra. So I am like a box of crayons, bright and colorful. I see and feel in color. When I'm happy, I feel a rush of razzle-dazzle pink in my hands. When I'm mad, I feel sparks of bright red spread across my cheeks. When I'm sad, I feel deep blue in my eyes. And when I'm nervous, I feel a vivid purple in my stomach. When I'm proud, I feel a beautiful brown in my heart. But for me, brown is more than feeling proud. It's the color I see when I see me. It's a color that people see when I come into a room, get on the bus, or go to the store. It's a color on my arms, my toes, and my face. The night before my first day of school, my mom tucks me into bed, kisses me on my forehead. She says, "Zahra, you felt many different colors today, but your beautiful brown skin is here to stay. All those feelings come and go, but your brown skin glows and glows." I press my arm against my mom's, and I like seeing the differences and similarities in our shades of brown.
On my first day of school, I feel razzle-dazzle pink happy and vivid purple nervous when my mom drops me off. But the crayons here are not like my box of crayons. They might have colorful feelings inside, but I am the only one who is brown on the outside. I stare at my brown arms and remember my mom's words. My brown skin glows and glows. I feel a rush of brown pride in my chest and march into my classroom, radiating sunshine yellow confidence. At recess, my classmate Zoe presses her arm against mine, wrinkles her nose, and says, "You're so dark. I don't like brown." Everyone laughs. I stare at her arms and feel many colors swirl inside me. I feel bright red anger in my cheeks and deep blue sadness in my eyes, but I don't feel brown pride inside my chest. In that moment, I wish I wasn't brown on the outside. At dinner, I tell my parents what happened at school. My mom and papa tell me that there are people who can be mean when they see my beautiful brown skin because it is different from their skin. But we want you to remember all the people who share your brown skin and all the important things they have done in this world. Brown is the color of your abuela who loves to hug and kiss you. It is the color of your old school principal who high-fived the students as you walk down the hallway. It is the color of your doctor who helps you feel better when you are sick. It is the color of Martin Luther King Jr., who inspired America with his dream of equality. It is the color of Malala Yousafzai, who bravely stands up for all girls to be able to go to school. It is the color of Cesar Chavez, who helped workers have safe and fair places to work. It is the color of former President Barack Obama, who helped keep our country safe and strong. It is the color of Kamala Harris, who is the first woman to become vice president of our country and said that she wouldn't be the last. It is the color of Frida Kahlo, who boldly painted her culture and brought attention to female artists like you. All these people have beautiful brown skin like yours. As they tell me about each of these brown and beautiful people, I feel a rush of razzle-dazzle pink spread in my hands. Even though I might be the only kid with brown skin in school, I am part of a very special box of crayons. This box is full of amazing people from all around the world and all throughout history who are brown like me. No matter what Zoe says, my brown skin is important, and it's a color that makes a big difference in the world. It's the color that I am, and I will make a difference in the world. I see brown all over my skin. I feel brown fill my heart. I feel proud.
Thank you.
Yeah. We love reading it.
I love it. When I read it the first time, I got kind of choked up when she was giving all the examples of all of the people that she could admire that had done amazing things in the world. That made me feel so awesome.
I know. It's definitely emotional, like when you kind of reflect on it. Yeah.
Because we know so many of those stories, and so to be reminded of that is always an excellent thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
What is the day in the life as an author like for you? I know this is the first book for you. So what are you writing more books now? I know we kind of touched on that before we got on the stream today, but.
So I am a full-time pediatric psychologist. So I see patients and work in a hospital setting. And and
I'm a marriage and family therapist. I work now for a health tech company that brings telehealth to people with serious mental illness across the country. So really busy with that. But our experience writing the book and trying to write other books really was a matter of like, Sheila
in between days, like it would be like I work on it early morning, and then he'd work on it in the evening, and then we would just like back and forth, like email each other the Word doc. And so that's a little bit of what we've been doing with like other book ideas that we have. I think we want to take research ideas and child development ideas and try to make it more relatable and more maybe developmentally appropriate jargon so that children can understand and parents would be more willing to read, as opposed to taking like having them read science articles, make them into fun children's books. So that's a little bit of what we'd like to do and are working on.
Awesome. That's great. What inspires you to write the most? What inspired you to write the Proudest Color outside of the research that you've done, obviously?
I'll talk about your
I think so we both have experienced discrimination growing up, especially as Middle Easterners after 9/11. There was a lot of hatred towards that community and a lot of racism that had occurred. So we both experienced that. And then I think after George Floyd was murdered, we were really moved to want to be able to contribute to the movement in some way. And actually the proceeds of our book are going to be donated, for our author proceeds will be donated to ACLU and other local youth-based nonprofits that are promoting racial justice. We really want to continue the conversation, continue the work of the movement, and make sure that it continues to spread. So I think that we really were looking at our own reflection of our own experience, wanting to be able to contribute in some way. And that's a little bit of how it came to be.
Yeah. And then Sheila at her clinic at the children's hospital she works at she curates the therapeutic children's books that they have. And through that and seeing what had happened, what was going on around the country, we recognized that there was just kind of a need for a book that broached the subject very directly and gave parents a tool to be able to have those conversations with their children. So we're kind of trying to fit a need while also trying to be involved with the movement. What we saw too is a lot of the conversation focused on the adults and how adults were dealing with it. But being in the field that we are, we recognize the importance of children and families at times like that.
I had a thought. I didn't know that your author proceeds were being donated to organizations that are fighting for justice. That is an amazing thing to do. So we carry I know we were talking about, you must follow us on social media. We also carry dissent pins, which does something similar for some of the pins that we carry in the store.
Very cool. That's great.
And we are working on helping our local juvenile detention center next week raise funds for their in-house library. So we know books can change lives. Yeah. I know what I was going to ask. So did you have some built-in beta readers? Did you share it with the families that you work with to see if you were headed in the right direction with it?
I mean, so we actually shared it with a lot of my with people in my doctoral program, and that also are working on like child development, racial justice research. And we were like, does this sound good to you? Like, does this sound like exactly what we're working on? Because one of the things that we really want to emphasize is like the way that Zahra's parents communicated to her was part of an evidence-based practice called racial socialization, which is how parents communicate and send messages of race and racism to their child and how it impacts their mental health. So we wanted to make sure that, this is aligned with the research and have a couple of like experts' eyes on it.
That's great. It's awesome. One of the things I loved about the book, beyond the profile, the profiles of quick real profiles that were done of people, was how you talked about emotions and colors and how those things are connected. How did you come to decide? How did that concept come to be? And how did you decide what color went with things? I know like sadness is typically, for example, done with blue, but like pink being the razzle dazzle, and that was unique to me.
So it was kind of a fun thing to do. So from our background, where children are learning to express themselves and don't necessarily have the language for things, you take a very neurodiverse approach to it of attaching emotions and colors. That's something we do a lot in our practice. And then given that Zahra is an artist, we felt that was just another kind of creative angle to her. And then when we were coming up with the colors themselves, we were picking colors that sounded like they would be crayon colors. So razzle dazzle pink and vivid purple. So we wanted to kind of just tie that all together. But it is a pretty common thing when working with kids to give them something that they can use. So even when they don't have the words, they could even point to a color or see kind of that gradient for themselves. And then Monica, our illustrator, just on her own, I think as her experience as a teacher as well, brought in some really cool elements where I don't know if you noticed the colored crayon trail throughout the whole book traces Zahra and changes based on her emotions. And what we liked about that was it showed that emotions can change throughout the day. You can have many different emotions and mixed emotions versus, we often just tell ourselves or we tell people like, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm bad, I'm fine, whatever. It adds a lot more color, as you will, to the experience that we have.
We're doing another author event next month, and it is about a gentleman, a young boy, man here in Iowa that committed suicide due to mental health issues and CTE. He was a really avid football player. And what's interesting about that is that you're right. We often tell people we're fine, we're good, we're okay. And that was part of the issue. Nobody knew that he was suffering through all this pain. And so to be able to have another way to communicate those emotions is so important. And if a color does it, because that's the way you see it, I think that's amazing. So.
Yeah. So important. Yeah.
So like we got to that section of the book where you're mentioning all the celebrities and the historical figures. How did you decide who to pick? There are so many.
It was really hard.
Was very challenging.
I think that was the hardest part. I think we were like going back and forth, and I think honestly, we picked people that were meaningful for us and really helped shape our lives, and that we could, growing up, like we would look back to and think about. But I don't know if you noticed like the end notes, and I know we didn't show it, but I think we could show it here.
Yeah.
There were people that we also wanted more like lesser known celebrities or important figures, so that people could look them up and get to know them. And so these are the pages that we're referring to.
Oh, yeah. The end papers. Yeah.
Yeah. So you notice someone like Jada Paeng, Christian Amanpour, maybe some of us know, others don't. Zaha Hadid, Faye Del Mundo, Zid Khalasa. We wanted folks we wanted the book to really be a tool and a resource for parents, not just with the caregiver and parents notes that we have, but it's like, okay, so who is this person? And now we got to go online and look together as parents, and then who else from that culture, and what else have they done, and so on. So, and we wanted the book also to represent as many people who might consider themselves brown as possible. Again, also kind of filling a gap that we had seen on bookshelves. So,
and we know we weren't able to be inclusive, given that it was a children's book and we had a limited amount of pages, but we hope that we did it justice, and we hope that people continue to do research on important figures.
I did love that it was inclusive of any shade of brown. That was it didn't pinpoint it one group over another, but it was very broad from that standpoint, so it can be used in lots of different situations. That really spoke to me. It was great.
Yeah, and we've had people like from different backgrounds send us pictures of their kids reading it. So from the Black community, Latinx community, Middle Eastern, Native American. So we've had friends from all different parts of cultures and communities like have pictures of their kid, and even Caucasian white community reading it. And I think it's just so, it just means a lot, because when I was looking for a book, I didn't feel like there was one that could encompass multiple cultures. And I felt like when we were writing this, we were in this social and political climate that was really trying to divide different cultures and really was pitting people against each other by the rhetoric that was out there. So it really was important for us of like, the brown community is very large. There's a lot of people that identify as brown and have experienced discrimination due to their skin tone, whatever shade it is. And I think that we really were trying to make sure that that was a big part of it, was like, how do we emphasize that? And I don't know if you noticed, but Zahra is like part Latina, part Black. Her name is Middle Eastern Muslim. So we just were like, let's try to make a character that could embrace as many cultures as possible.
And it's very reflective of the way life is here in the United States. Everybody has a mix of a little bit of everything, and to be proud of that is an amazing thing.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's been a little overwhelming to hear too from people who have read the book, or especially adults who are saying, I really wish I'd had a book like this as a kid. I think it would have made a big impact.
Yeah. And the nice thing is they'll share it. Like I actually brought a children's book home we don't have any children. We have nieces and nephews, but I'm always looking through our picture books so that when they come visit us again, when it's safe, that they have things to read. And so even if as an adult, I buy children's picture books because they speak to me.
What a fun idea. I love that.
So you mentioned the end paper. You mentioned in the back, you showed it briefly when we did it, is that there's a note to parents and caregivers. So I wanted to chat a little bit about what insight do you have for parents and teachers or other educators that might be sharing the Proudest Color with children?
So we really wanted to make sure that there was a template for how to have this conversation. We know that like this book all of a sudden tackles a lot of really big issues, and people might be like, oh, a children's book about colors, and that's like, wait, what just happened in the middle of this? And then how do I navigate this conversation with my child? And so it's such an important conversation to have. I mean, the literature shows that children as young as infants, as young as 6 months, notice racial differences at 5 years old. They can actually hold the racial attitudes of their parents and caregivers. And so a lot of this comes from how parents and caregivers are modeling, even educators are modeling racial attitudes, and also the exposure of a child to diverse communities, whether it's through the media, through the school curriculum, through the friends that they are playing with. All of these are really important factors. So the back has some like tips of how to have that conversation. Things like you know, it doesn't have to be one big conversation like the talk, right? It could be multiple conversations as they grow in their developmental stage. This book was specifically tackled for 5 to 8 year olds. So we do talk about using the concept of fair and unfair to help describe racism, because they think very concretely, and a child at around 5 or 6 will know, like, if you give them one cookie and their sibling 2 cookies, that's unfair. And you can tie that to how systemically there are communities in our society that are treated unfairly, and they do get sometimes less than other groups do, or they do get treated than other groups do. And this is how it makes them feel. So we do give kind of some tips on how to make sure that you have that conversation in a developmentally appropriate manner.
Wonderful. Well, it's a great resource. And I know you have some more resources on your website, which is theproudestcolor.com, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do want to let everybody know if, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we have our Instagram too. If anyone is interested, Dr. Sheila's Bookshelf. I actually highlight mental health themed books from our clinic library and from my therapy office. During the pandemic, I realized like a lot of parents are doing this on their own. So I wanted them to have children's books that had mental health themes, like how to build social skills, how to build empathy in a child, how to establish boundaries, all of those things. So if anyone's interested in knowing some mental health books, feel free to follow me on that Instagram.
Awesome. It's great. Wonderful resources. And I know that as a bookseller, I'll be looking at your Instagram because we often get questions. Do you have a book that does this, does that? And we're always looking for a resource. So that'll be great. Awesome.
Sure.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
We had just found a book recently that dealt with Alzheimer's and dementia explained it in a way for children to understand, which now that we found it, we found people coming in and asking for it. The universe speaks in unusual ways.
Wow. I might be asking you for that recommendation. Okay, I don't know one for that, so that's good.
I'll email it to you. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. So I just want to remind everybody that's online, whether you're on Facebook or you're on the event here with us, that you can drop questions for Sheila, Jeff in the chat if you have any questions. We just have one more question, unless there's other things that Sheila and Jeff want to add to the conversation before we'll wrap up today. So one of my favorite things to ask authors is that, because you're doing these events, you get asked lots of questions, but there's usually the one question that nobody asks you about. So what is the one thing you wish people would ask you, and what would you like to share about that thing?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I guess I'll speak for me. I think the question is really like what to do. What do we do with these things, and why this book, and just in general, like, I don't know. I think about like our entire field as therapy is really about leaning into challenges and discomfort. I think as a society and a culture, we tend to like shy away from them or distract ourselves, or just wait for the day that things are better and not really embrace what's happening now. And these feelings or these experiences are here to teach us a lot, and that's what we wanted our book to do, was not have that fairy tale sense of the world, and that prejudice and discrimination happens. It's not done with yet, unfortunately. So let's have a way to actually use it to cope with, to build resiliency from, and to increase one's sense of pride and self-esteem versus, let's talk about a world where everyone treats each other well.
My question is
I noticed that there was no real resolution in the story itself between Zoe and Zara, but I noticed then, of course, there's this lovely picture at the back, the illustration that Monica did. So I did like that.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about your question?
Oh, I was like, people don't usually ask, like, what do we do for fun? But he went like much more deeper.
What do you do for fun?
Yeah, I was like, we're going to be like shopping for mattresses today. So that's what we're doing for fun. But his was way better. So let's just go with that.
What do you like to do for fun besides shopping for mattresses?
I love watching Great British Bake Off. I think that's really fun.
She's a phenomenal.
Oh, that came back on that comes back next week,
September,
I think, on Netflix.
Very, very excited. Yeah.
And then I love to rock climb and be outside. We actually just went on a great hike yesterday.
Awesome. Where's your favorite place to hike?
Oh gosh, Laguna Beach. We're in Orange County, so by the ocean is really nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful out there.
We're very
You have
grateful.
to deal with the intense winters that we have here.
Yeah, you mentioned winter clothing, and I was like, you're gonna have to tell us what winter is. We're not quite sure yet.
Yeah.
Well, we still have t-shirts and socks, so we'll get you.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. We do have a question on Facebook. You touched on this a little bit, but especially when it came to the colors and the emotions and working that into the story and the characters and artists. So the illustrator worked that through, drew that through the story as well. But how do you go about illustrating the book? Like, how does that collaboration process work between authors and illustrators?
Yeah, so we were very new to this process, so we didn't know either. We sent out our story, and in our minds we have our own vision as authors, as you write, and then our publishing company found Monica and showed us a couple of her samples, and it was incredible. And at that time she was doing much more adult art, like beautiful, like but not really child focused. And so then she showed us some images of what she wanted Zahra to look like, wanted Zahra's world to look like. And we thought it was stunning. And I think that, the artists or the illustrators really just kind of take creative control. And as authors, you really don't have that much input. But with Monica, we didn't really want to have that much input because she's so incredibly talented. And she just continuously surprised us. Like, I was like, I don't know how she's going to describe all these emotions that Zahra has. Like, how do you do that? Is it going to be over like a week or multiple scenarios? And she just used a cat and just had all like Zahra's interactions with a cat. And I was like, that is just so clever. So honestly, we leave the artwork up to the illustrators because they're just genius in this area.
As a cat person, I'm surprised mine didn't make an appearance today. Sometimes he shows up, wanders through because he makes a lot of racket if I close the office door. But I did notice the cat, and I noticed that in her bio it mentions that she has a cat herself.
Yeah.
So
So cute.
So the two things to watch definitely in the story after you read it a couple of times are the cat and then the crayon line that moves through that changes color. Those are kind of some hidden Easter eggs in a sense that you notice after you read it a couple times. Those are beautiful.
Yeah. There was one other really fun one we saw that was just really touching on that letter that Zoe and Zahra write to each other. There's an illustration next to it, and Monica snuck in them drawing each other's a heart in each other's skin tone that was her own.
Oh, I see that. Oh, beautiful. I missed that.
I know. It was like really touching because during, again, the political climate was so like intense during the time that we wrote this. And it was almost like this ideal, like children have the ability to make this an ideal world and they're the next generation. And I just was like, when I saw that picture, I was like so moved. She also had done another picture that was Zahra and Zoe together, and they had Z's on their outfit. And that was the reason we picked those two names, is because I love the name Zoe. I think it's beautiful. And I love the name Zahra, obviously. And so, but the reason we picked them was because oftentimes kids with Z names are always like, it's just so uncommon. And here's these two girls with names that start with Z, but they're, because of skin tone, they're like kind of opposing, like one's opposing the other. And it was just nice that she recognized that and was like highlighted like this huge similarity across cultures and across, communities. And I thought that was really pretty, but we didn't include that in the book, but it was very pretty when we saw it.
Yeah.
There's kids, they learn so quickly and they're so kind and they have such great hearts. The other day we had a woman come by. She had been in recently and purchased 2 mask pins that saying why their family was masking that we were carrying. And she came in again this week to purchase 2 more. I said, "Oh, you're buying 2 more?" She said, "Yes."
Oh, Terry, I think we lost you.
When her daughter left the appointment, the daughter asked if they could buy a pin for the nurse. So she came back specifically to buy a pin to give to the nurse. So we thought that was, the kids are amazing.
Kids are very amazing. They're so resilient. Yeah.
They are. Is there anything else? I don't have any more questions from the group that are watching us in all the places. Is there anything that you would like to add to the conversation or anything that you want us to have as takeaways?
No, we're just really excited that the book is out there, and it's available at the Swamp Fox bookstore. So please definitely check it out. And we really appreciate you guys being here and taking the time on a Sunday to spend time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
guys.
thank you so much. Go ahead,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, I was just saying thank you. Sheila hit it on the head. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. And if you ever get to the Midwest, please feel free to stop by and see us in Iowa. We would love to meet you in person, is what we're telling everybody we meet virtually right now. But if you write another book and you want to do another virtual event, we'd love to partner with you again. Wish you the best of luck. We look forward to selling more copies of The Proudest Color to our community. So
Right. Well,
thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.